Go, my wild sweet, here for you as you for me. Go, my wild sweet, here for you as me. We will cocoon with the season. We will sing without reason and emerge with widened wings. The song is called Wild Sweet, and it is from Starling Arrow.
Welcome to In Her Image, a podcast where we seek and celebrate our Mother God through scripture, scholarship, the arts, and everyday life. Today, Kate and I are joined by an amazing yoga practitioner who lives in Utah, and she is the mother of 4 amazing children. She's been married for almost 15 years and has been practicing Kundalini yoga for about 7 years. She helps in several teacher trainings and as a group leader, and she's currently a yogic life coach, a numerologist, and a Kundalini yoga instructor. Crystal loves to read, discuss philosophy, and loves meditating. Union with God is her top priority, and you can find her on Instagram at Crystal Meditates, which is a great account to follow, and I think you're just going to love Crystal and the love and the energy that she brings. So Crystal, this is such an interesting bio, and there's a lot of things in here that we're curious about and want to hear more about. So just to start us off, how did you get involved in yoga and meditation, and what do those things mean to you?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate this. It is one of the things I love to talk about, so I'm excited to be here. My journey really began as being a young mom, which I think many people can identify with. And I was in a really hard time. I was struggling in my life. I was struggling emotionally, mentally, physically. And a friend of mine was actually in a Kundalini yoga teacher training and asked me to come to her classes and just to kind of boost her up and give her some moral support. And so as I had journeyed to her classes, the very first time that we did a meditation, and I arrived there in black, which I'm sure is symbolic of where I was in my life. The very first meditation, within a minute, I felt a shift. And I could tell that this was doing something important for me. And just taking that peace and a rejuvenation of energy that I received in the meditation, it lasted me about 3 days. And I was not a very happy mom at that time, to be honest. I was very emotional. I was very angry. I was angry about and resentful of the place I was in my life. And financially, we're struggling. We're living in my parents' house. It was just a really hard time for us as a family. But coming into that space and just experiencing this stillness, I didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted more. So as I kept going, I ended up going once a week, and it wasn't enough. I needed to go twice a week. I was able to maintain that throughout the week, to have that calm and that peace that I'd never experienced like that in any other way before. Now, as I look back on it, it was kind of interesting because I didn't even understand at the time. But looking back, I can see that the real thing that was happening was a union with God. And, God, Elohim, Heavenly Father and Mother, I didn't even differentiate. All I knew was that I felt some stillness and some peace. And so I continued going as I prayed, and I've been praying for years, honestly. What can I do in my life? What can I do to help me be a better mother, to be a more peaceful person, to feel confident, to feel happiness and joy? And when God came back to me after I'd practiced a little bit, he said, you need to do 2 things. You need to, 1, make yourself a priority, and 2, you need to do more yoga. And I can't say that's necessarily the case for everybody, but for me, that was essential. And that pushed me through to be motivated. I'm like, that's what God told me to do, then I'm going to do it. And I continued going and going and going until I was at teacher training, and then became a teacher and kept going. And I had a lot of anxiety and depression, but I've been free of anxiety and depression since 2019, just through this practice. So for me, it's just the greatest gift that God could give me.
Wow. That's amazing. Yay for your friend inviting you to come and starting this
Absolutely.
whole thing. I didn't even know what Kundalini yoga was until a year or two ago. And I had a really strong feeling like I needed to do Kundalini yoga specifically when I was pregnant with my third. Yeah. And it's been hugely transformative for me too, especially with the mental health. There are times when like that is the thing that rescues me. So I'm definitely a believer that there is something to it.
That's amazing. I have had people come to my classes that are mental health professionals, and they say, I'm here because I want to know what's going on. How are you guys doing this? They're like, so many research studies show that yoga can help you, can help your mental health, can help you change, and why. And so they'll come and they feel different. And there are studies to back Kundalini yoga. But essentially what it comes down to, I don't really need that myself just because I have the experience and I know it works for me.
Jess was the one that introduced me to that too. We've had some like small Marco Polo groups where we've been kind of doing a 40-day things here and there.
I love hearing this. Yay.
Yeah. And like there's a Kundalini meditation that has become like my prayer every day. And you probably know it. But I want to talk about this, but I also want to say for our listeners who might not be familiar with Kundalini yoga or who also, I think most of us know about yoga, but for many of us, it's like, oh yeah, it's a way to like stretch and like increase flexibility and like relax. But I would love to hear more about that. So
absolutely,
then I can share my Kundalini story, but yeah, can you explain for our listeners?
Yeah, so it is interesting. When we hear yoga, we typically think of leggings and hot yoga and getting flexible and bending in a pretzel and all of that, which is amazing too and definitely beneficial. But anciently, yoga was mostly just meditation and practicing the names and words of God, right? It was the meditation on God. And even actually, it wasn't that long ago, really, that they added postures. So I can't remember the year at the moment, but it was really not that long ago. And the postures being very helpful, but Kundalini yoga, it's kind of all of it. So we have postures and we have deep relaxation, which like if you follow like Huberman Lab, you see he talks about the importance of like non-sleep deep relaxation. And that's what we're doing. We're doing this really essential relaxation. But then also we have meditation and we have mantra and we have all of that. And if you're become a teacher or if you're just very deep in the practice, you find that there's actually like 200 plus different kinds of yogas. There's Seva yoga, which is like just about serving people. It's about coming to God because yoga, here's what's interesting. Yoga actually means, it's the same as the root of the word yoke. So like when Jesus said, take my yoke upon you, he could have said, take my yoga upon you. It means union. It's a Sanskrit word for union. So when you hear yoga, and you hear like Seva yoga, it actually means to serve and become close to God or have union with God by serving other people, or also called karma yoga. But then there's also other kinds of yoga, but all of them really are supposed to give you the experience of oneness with the divine. Kundalini is interesting because a lot of people think, well, what is that word anyway? The word Kundalini is translated as the lock of the beloved. I don't know a huge amount of like where that all comes from, but if you understand the Kundalini energy, it's a snake, I guess is the way that they symbolize. It's a snake that goes up your spine. And so like when you see an old man in like the old paintings, an old wise man, or even like a Brahmin today in India, they all have staffs because it's a symbol of the spine. And like even just like Moses, right? Moses and the snake is, as we know, like a huge symbol for the divine feminine. And it's the creative force energy that goes up your spine. It starts at the root, goes all the way up the chakras, up at the top where we are receiving our revelation, right? And everything else. All of that creative energy is what's known as like Shakti energy or Kundalini energy. And that really aligns with the feminine divine. I mean, I can't say it any other way. which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dying to hear your experience, Kate.
Oh yeah, there's like a 5-minute Kundalini meditation that one of our friends shared with us. And I love that it's just 5 minutes, but like it makes a huge difference in my day when I start my day that way. Or like today, for example, been having kind of a hard mental health day. And I just was like, it's kind of like working out where you're like, I don't really feel like doing that, but then you do it. And it's, for those who don't know, Kundalini yoga often involves chanting mantras. Is that correct? Is that how I can put that? And it's in a language that I don't speak. But even though, I'm singing something in a language that I don't speak, like it still triggers something to my brain and my body. Like it's still sending a message of union with God. And so I was looking up the translation of this one that I do almost every day. And the beginning, the beginning of most yoga, Kundalini yoga, I bow to the divine teacher within. Mm-hmm. We chant that 3 times. I bow to, and then the next part is I bow to the primal wisdom. I bow to the wisdom throughout the ages. I bow to the true wisdom. I bow to the great unseen wisdom. So we're connecting with our own wisdom, and the wisdom that's in us is from God. So we're connecting, and wisdom is also like kind of one of those key words we've talked about lots on the podcast of the divine feminine. And then the main part that you repeat for about 3 minutes is the Creator has become my protector. The truest of the true has taken care of me. God, God, God. And when you sing, and it's a beautiful, like the way I learned it anyway, beautiful melodic song that kind of changes sometimes the way I chant it. And then in the end, Satnam, we say, I am truth, or truth is my essence. So it's those type of things. It's in a way, I just kind of made this connection like the rosary, like where we're repeating something over and over, but it's connect, like, and I was always taught. So my mom, sorry to go on and on. My mom.
I love it.
Taught me, there's a man named Shad Helmstetter. He learned the power of self-talk. And so he created like recordings of himself saying things about himself. Like, I am someone who takes care of my body. I am someone that other people like, there's millions of it. Right. And so then he created tapes. We had cassette tapes and you would listen to it and it like changes your brain because you have a new script. And we even listened to them as kids and stuff. And so it's like hearing those words. If I'm saying I bow to the divine teacher within. And when I say over and over that the Creator has become my protector, the truest of the true has taken care of me, God, 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 like that becomes true. I'm able to like grow with that trust in God because I say it over and over. I'm not just saying either a rote prayer of like, and please bless this and please bless this, or thank you for this. It's really just like a communication between my body and mind and God that like, I trust you. I trust you. And then I feel at peace, even when like whatever's going on around me or in my mind that I'm struggling with, like I don't feel at peace. Anyway, that's my experience.
Oh, I love that. Isn't that amazing? I love that you have those tapes. It's funny you bring up tapes. So if you have been doing Kundalini yoga and you're Mormon or was a Mormon or anything Mormon, you may know Felice Austin's book, Awake as in Ancient Days. And so she's actually my teacher. I trained with her. But so in her book, I have this quoted. I actually use this in my life coaching. I talk about this and how the repetition is so important. But funny you bring up cassette tapes because The cassette tape, most people don't realize, and she has this in her book, but most people don't realize how cassettes are made. It's like a little layer of iron, and it's written on, right? It's written on through vibration, and then it plays through. So let me read you this real quick. The number of heartbeats relates to how many blood cells will be affected by the vibrations and imprinted by the message during the meditation mantra. The reason 40 consecutive days of meditation is important is that blood cells live for around 120 days. So if you're repeating the same meditation, message, or words every day, even if it's an affirmation, right? 40 days is about the point at which the new population of blood cells written with your new message, because even blood cells have iron, right? So we're literally writing this message on our blood cells, can begin to overpower the old message. The new cells will hold a new attitude of consciousness. Of course, if you keep going to 120 days, you'll see even more results.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? So it's like you said, like it's literally transforming you from the inside out, and it's utilizing your power of creation. Like the word is the power of creation. And I am statements, I mean, we know how powerful that is. Like even when Jesus said, I am, and like all the people fell down, because it is such a powerful thing to say. It is powerful to be able to say these mantras and these words. And part of why these are more impactful in these, because, like if you're singing like Rakane Har, or if you're doing Satnam or anything like that, any of these mantras, if they're in Gurmukhi or Sanskrit, any of these there's other languages that are very impactful. They're actually specifically doing something to your body when you say them, right? So you have like energy points or meridian points in the roof of your mouth. So as you speak mantra and you're saying like Satnam, that's your tongue is touching the roof of your mouth in such a way on specific points that it's like playing a keyboard, and it's telling your brain and your body, these are things that need to shift, or these are ways to align so I can be in better consciousness, or I can be in my highest self. Isn't that amazing?
Yes. I love it.
So cool. I know. I could talk about this all day.
Yes.
Obviously.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
We can all geek out about it. And I think it's super fascinating to learn about, because I just have this like little baby knowledge about it. But each new thing is so cool. Like learning, oh, when I say har, or like a certain word, and then the instructor on YouTube will say like, the vibration in your throat is doing this specific thing, or like this specific pose is targeting, your glandular system or whatever. I'm like, what? It's amazing how connected our mind and our body and our spirits are, and how like tapping those certain points can affect multiple things. Yeah. Super, super cool. Yeah. You designed cool bodies, God.
I know, right? Well, and I really do think because the yoga that's been passed down has been for thousands and thousands of years, right? And it was only taught from master to student, student become master, and then they teach their student and their student, because they wanted it to stay so pure. And same as like if we're talking about like the temple or different ordinances, things that are really very powerful and sacred, like they do need to be kept so pure, right? We don't want to be polluted, especially if it's being handed down through the centuries. And so now that it's actually being taught openly, it's just incredible. I do think that these techniques and this science has been around for so long that even, is it possible that even like Adam and his family and Eve, and were they practicing something similar? And like I said, there wasn't really necessarily postures back then, but were they speaking the names of God for specific tools, for specific reasons, right? Same as we're doing now with specific mantras.
So cool. Okay, so tell us how Heavenly Mother came into your story and how she relates to your practice of yoga and meditation.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. So in all honesty, I didn't actually seek her out. It was more like she sought me. My first instance of hearing the idea of a Heavenly Mother was kind of met with, I think, what most people experience of like, we don't know anything, and she's just kind of too sacred to talk about. And in some way, I kind of felt like, okay, then I guess I'll be her warrior, and I just kind of took that like role on. I would stand up in church and was like, there's like this discrepancy, or women need a voice or something. And just kind of left it at that. But I'd always had a very close relationship with Heavenly Father. So then when I was in my teacher training for Kundalini Yoga, and there's a specific meditation, it's called the Divine Shield for Protection and Positivity. And it uses a mantra that is Ma, Ma. And you just keep saying, it's a call. It's not a word necessarily. It's a call, and you sing it out as though you're a child and you're crying it out for this mother to come and respond to you. And there is one song that we did it with that really the tone of it is like this crying, kind of like a weary, sad little baby almost. And as I had my experience, my friend Maria also had this experience that as we called it out, Ma, Ma, and it was, I mean, that even sounds more like a sheep, but singing it more like, it's like, Ma, Ma, something like that, just like very melodic, like you're calling out to the universe. And it put me in this place of feeling like I was absolutely a child again. And like I was calling for my mother, like I was in a crib, just calling out, where are you? And I didn't really have an intention to have an experience. I was just kind of going with it, like never done something like this. Okay, let's just try. But something very special happened. And when we were calling out, and we think we did this for maybe, I can't remember how long, probably 11, 12 minutes. And as we're calling out to the mother and singing, and all of our voices are combining, and we're in this gym, and so it's just resonating, and there's this Ma, Ma call going out. And I had this vision that came to me, and she came down in this very pure way. And it wasn't necessarily colorful. And I think she probably appears to people differently, depending on who you are and what you need at the time. But she came to me and actually brought in another person that I'd had a hard time in my relationship with for a while, another woman. And she kind of called her in. And she sat us both down, and we sat in this little triangle, and she was just emanating pure love. And she said to me, she did the best she could at the time. And then she turned to me and she said, and you're doing the best you can. And while I know that message is absolutely true, and we hear that, but hearing it from my divine mother to tell me that, and giving nothing but pure love, was so profound that I could accept it, right? It's love that changes us. It's true, pure acceptance and love that changes us. And from that moment on, I began to learn more about her, and she showed up everywhere. It was amazing. Like I started studying a little bit, did a little dabbling in like Chinese medicine and the Tao, and I'm like, she's in the yin, and she's in the earth, like, you know, and then I'm learning these words about wisdom, and I'm learning about her symbols and the snake and the tower and all these other things. And then she is absolutely everywhere. And while I've been frustrated, I'm like, why don't I have a text about her? Why is there no words? I see, like, because she's absolutely in everything. She permeates all things. And I can find her literally everywhere I go. I find her in the cycles of my life. I find her in the seasons. I find her in everything that I had seen, even the rituals I was a part of that I had no idea she was there the whole time. And she just called out to me and was like, you know what? I'm here. You might have felt alone, but you weren't.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that experience with us. I'm speechless. When was that?
That would have been the summer of 2019. And that was, I'd only been practicing not too long. I mean, it had been more than a year, but I was still in a pretty rough spot in my life. And it was just the most incredible situation to be able to go to for that time in my life, especially. And to be with other men and women who also felt like this. I literally can't say anything else than like, I went to Zion. I tell you, I'm like, I experienced Zion because everybody, here's why, because everybody was trying to be conscious. It wasn't that there was no conflict, and it wasn't that there was no misunderstandings, but everybody was being conscious and trying to resolve things consciously, being aware of themselves, their own shortcomings, how they interact with other people, right? And trying to just exude love, trying to heal themselves. And I really think because, yoga means union, it's union with God, and God is in us, that we're able to, as we know ourselves better, and I think huge part of that for women especially is knowing Heavenly Mother and knowing the divine feminine aspect that is in us. As we know ourselves better, we are able to interact with others better. We are able to heal. We're able to love more. We're able to love better. So it's like, why do we even, somebody might say, well, why do you need to know about Holy Mother? Why, it's not that important, maybe, I don't know. And to me, it absolutely is essential because it is the knowledge of me. It's knowing myself so I can know God. And when I include God, Mother, Father, and God. And I actually found a quote from Joseph Smith just the other day. It kind of surprised me. And it said, the first principle of the gospel is to know for a surety the true character of God. Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And so that would include the masculine and feminine aspect, the true and full picture. And so if that, it is that important. Exactly. That's such a good answer to that question. Why is it so important to you? Isn't Heavenly Father enough for you? It's like, he's enough, but he's half of the picture.
Yes. It's like we have a true story. We've been given a true story. It's just incomplete. I just want the fullness. I want the wholeness, the balance.
Well, it's just like us. All of us have a masculine and feminine side. But if you just took half of that away, if you took your creative aspect aside and you're strictly logical, it's not complete, right? You can logic around problems, but you can't be creative. Or if you're just the opposite, if you're only creative, but you don't have no logic, then maybe you can't organize it. There's a necessity for both. And just the same way we have a necessity for both our Heavenly Father and our Heavenly Mother, because they are two halves of a whole. If we are one when we're with our spouse, the wouldn't they be? Right?
Exactly. It's the spouse thing. Like if we read a book about this character, they're amazing. They perform all these incredible feats, and you go back later and find out that there was a character missing the whole time who was with them every step of the way and who was instrumental in each and every one of those aspects. You'd be like, I definitely wanted to know about that person. That's important. We don't want to leave somebody out if they were actually there. And I love that your story included just that feeling of pure love. That has been a theme, which is not surprising, of course, because we're talking about God, but that has been a theme in people's personal stories involving Heavenly Mother, is that she comes with this incredible, all-encompassing love, which makes so much sense. And so it's like, well, why do we need Heavenly Mother? Why would we reject more love?
And interesting with that specific meditation that I was doing at the time, I was doing a little bit more diving into it and doing a little bit more research on it. And it's really a meditation to strengthen your aura. And so it is a call, and it's a call to the Mother, and it's a call expecting it. Like the way that you're postured, you actually have your hand cupped around your ear, and you're sitting in a specific way, and your hand is cupped so that it's it specifically mentions to be able to hear the message coming back. But I've noticed as I do it, I hear my own voice even better. Like you put your hand next to your ear, you hear yourself being echoed, but then you also hear things coming much better. So I think the dual aspect there is very important. But then also as it's enhancing the aura or electromagnetic field, which, even the earth has an electromagnetic field, and solar flares can affect communications when it's infiltrating your electromagnetic field. Even for us in our electromagnetic field, communications don't work very well if we don't have a strong aura, because then we're getting negative things that come, right? And there's always noise. There's always things coming. And as it's flowing in and out of us, our communications between not just our body and our mind and our soul, but our organs and our blood and everything, it's not working very well. So I find it interesting with the aspect of the mother, because when our aura is weak, we actually become like paranoid and negative, and we lack self-trust. But when our aura is strong, then we're uplifting, we're positive and nurturing, even to ourselves. And the virtues that go with this body, because there's actually 10 bodies, which I'll talk about in another podcast, but this body has the virtue of mercy, love, and security. And that's exactly what I feel from her. I felt that when I felt her and I saw her. It was this absolute like mercy, and not even in the way that I would typically think of it, like you did something wrong and here I'll throw you a line, but mercy of just like grace, right? Like acceptance and love and not out to shame in any way.
Lovely. You answered my next question, which was like, what is your understanding of her? Like, how has it changed as you saw her? And so I'm curious about how, you shared one example of like kind of your first example of connecting with her through meditation. What are some other ways that you connect to her through meditation, and what does that mean to you?
Something interesting, having been so consistent in meditation. I'm probably going on over 1,000 days of consistent yoga practice daily. And I know it's over 1,000 days, but there's been some days it's like, oh, shoot, I missed it. I come back to it. I stopped counting exactly because sometimes things happen. So there's actually a specific effect that you can have being very consistent in meditation and having this daily conscious practice that is a union, right, with our heavenly parents. And it's called Simran. And Simran means the continuous experience of the meditative mind. Simran is a continuous, meditative, longingly creative feeling in which life is experienced as a spiritual flow. And I have experienced this. There are times when it goes away, especially if my sadhana or my daily spiritual practice is not as strong. But this is so important to me, this Simran, because it's what's called like a householder aspect. So it used to be that a yogi would have to like go live in the Himalayas and meditate in a cave for 40 years or plus, and they'd experience great things. But that's one thing I love about Kundalini yoga is it's a householder yoga. So why that's important, how this connects, because Simran is this experience of constantly being in this connection with God, being in this meditative flow state. And that's been especially important to me because my connection to Divine Mother and Divine Father can be every moment, essentially. It can be all the time. I can constantly be in this flow and where I have a neutral mind. I am not reactive. I'm able to let things be and let God, right? It's like, let go and let God and let that all the flow of this world, because honestly, we have no control, right? We don't have any control. We think we do, but we don't. And the like surrender aspect of having them be at the helm is so much better. It doesn't feel like it at first, right? Surrender feels scary, but as soon as I surrender and I'm in my meditative flow, I start to see things in more eternal perspectives. I see things more in a nurturing way, like Heavenly Mother does, and in a pure love. Like there's a saying in Kundalini Yoga, if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. I love that. And that's something I can experience. I do think that is the very divine feminine aspect, that she feels that way. She sees love in every one of her children. She sees the value in every one of her children. And why meditation is important to me, because I do want to be in this state constantly. I do want to be connected constantly and have this yoga yoke and union with them all the time.
That is so strong. And I love thinking about like the flow and being in tune with the flow. I think I've had moments like that and not really known what to call it. I like the word alignment too, where you're like, everything feels aligned and like I'm just, or in the flow. I like that too. It feels energetic. It feels magnetic. It's like, yes, I want that. Tell me how to do it, how to achieve it, you know. Do you think meditation at all is good enough? Or like, what would you say are the qualifications, if any, to achieve this state? And I'm curious what your spiritual practice is each day. You mentioned, I can't remember what the fun word was for it.
Sadhana.
I want to learn more.
Absolutely. Well, so meditation, the strict definition, according to Kundalini Yoga, as taught the way I was taught, is the process of controlling and transcending the waves of the mind, allowing the flow and radiance of the soul. So it's creating a communication between your soul, your mind and body, right? Is that where the natural man, I don't know, I like philosophizing. So I'm like, is that where the natural man is? Is it the mind and body? And like soul's got to be in charge? I think there's a lot I can go into about that. I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita. But for me, I absolutely think it all depends on the individual. I've seen in my circles and the people that I have coached, even people who have not meditated before, there are specific meditations I give them from Kundalini Yoga that work very quickly and very powerfully. So is it the best? I can't like say that necessarily, right? Because everybody's going to be drawn to what is right for them. And maybe some people need to go do Buddhist meditations. Maybe some people just need to learn to sit in silence. There could be a variety of things. I'm not going to say one thing's better than another. All I know is that what I have is powerful. So I love anybody to try it. But something interesting, there's this quote as well. It is not the meditation that stops the mind. It is the surrender of the mind to the soul and the soul to truth. It is when you prefer the word of truth to the word of your own intellect. Yogic said that. So when you think of meditation, it's really this like surrender to allow your soul to be guiding you instead of your mind and your intellect trying to justify or organize and tell your soul what to do. You're letting your soul tell your mind what to do, right? Let it work for you, but don't let it be the master. So any meditation that helps people to achieve that is beneficial. Absolutely. I think if you want to go on like Headspace or you want Insight Timer or something like that, and that works for you, do it. Just be consistent, because that's really, like we talked about 40 days, that's really what makes a change, is the consistency. My own personal practice, my own sadhana is a daily spiritual practice. So anybody who reads their scriptures each morning or says a prayer each morning, that's a sadhana. Typically sadhana is done between the hours of 4:30 and 6:30 a.m., but it kind of varies with the angle of the sun. My own sadhana, I get up early and I typically put on my head wrap, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but mainly for me, there's a few. I'll just mention a couple. One is like that it's actually very aligning for your skull. So unlike the physical aspect, our skulls, when you're born, there's different little pieces that kind of work together. So as it's wrapped tight enough, but not too tight, it's actually giving your head the alignment to keep your body healthy. It's also a self-crowning. And as we are children of gods, why not, right? And that's actually like what the Sikhs kind of say, like the Sikhs wear head wraps because they say, well, like, why not everybody gets a crown? They're all about equality. And they're like, everybody gets a crown. So that's another reason. So I put on my head wrap and I go down into my yoga space, and I have a little platform there, which is where I used to teach, but now I teach at studio. And I have my sheepskin. That's where I'll do my tune in, which Kate talked about. And I tune in, and then I'll do yoga set typically, unless I have like some big thing in the day and I have to shorten my practice for some reason, but I'll do yoga sets with postures. I'll do a little relaxation, and then I'll meditate. I just finished 133 days of a Siddhartha Chakra Kriya meditation and doing it for 31 minutes. That was a little intense, but I loved it. It was really intense, but I loved it. And then I will close. We close with Longtime Sun and the Satnam. Satnam means truth is my identity, or I am truth's true name, right? My truest name, my truest self. And then I will pray. And I will pray specific, like a personal prayer. I also do the prayer of St. Francis. And then I will typically have some kind of scriptural uplifting thing to read. So whether I'm reading the scriptures, Bible, Book of Mormon, or if I'm reading Bhagavad Gita, or if I'm reading something else that's just popped up that is feeling very inspiring to me, and that's what it is that day, then that's what I'll read. And then I kind of close and drink my water and go upstairs and I make breakfast for my kids. That's my practice in the morning.
Thank you for giving us that peek into your day. I want to know like the specifics. I'm like, okay, but what does it look like? So that was really, really helpful. Hopefully our listeners enjoy having like a glimpse into what it can look like. And I just love how individual everything you talk about is. Like, it's all about the person. So I'm also curious, like, how you came to this place of being able to just self-author your spiritual journey. Was that something that you feel like has come really naturally, like you came with, or that you've had to like learn?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've had to learn that. I was not the picture of self-authority for a very long time. And thanks for asking. That is something I am very passionate about now. And that is something that I have a focus on in my life coaching is the journey to self-authority. And part of that is authenticity as well, right? So for me, it actually only happened about 2 years ago. And so I'd already been practicing yoga for years at this point. And I'd say there's actually 2 things that happened that made this possible. One was being very consistent in my practice, right? And I'm growing in consciousness. I'm growing in union with my heavenly parents. I'm growing with union with myself. The other thing was because as you're doing yoga or any type of healing, you start to see the discrepancies in your life, right? You see where you betray yourself or where you let others betray you. You see where there's things that you just can't tolerate, but you have been for no real good reason other than you just don't want to bring it up because there's a lot of fear. And so when I was at a point where I knew I had to face certain facts about certain things in my life or relationships, even things in my home that had to be addressed, as soon as I created boundaries, and it was, probably other than parenting, probably the hardest thing I've ever done, and communicating specific boundaries and then holding them. When I did those 2 things, I had my practice. So I was on my own journey, right? I was open to truth. I think that was the biggest thing that really helped me in my practice was it made me open to truth, but then also acknowledging it and making the decision to make a change. And when I created those boundaries, I was able to actually come into a place of awareness and authority that it was my life now. It was no longer my life was based on other people's opinions or fear of what other people would think of me. And that actually freed me up in a lot of ways to embrace a lot of these things that you guys have been talking about of, I probably would have been scared actually to even listen to a podcast like this years ago and been like, I don't know, is that okay? But being able to come to myself and say, I know that I feel this is right. And knowing and discerning truth is absolutely one of the top priorities when you learn self-authority. It's one of the goals. It's one of the things that you get when you become self-aware and you have your own self-authority, right? Then you can decide. And it's no longer like, well, what does so-and-so say on this? And what does so-and-so say on this? It's, okay, I can take that information. It's not that it's invalid, but now I take it to myself. And what do I feel from here? Okay, well, my only parents say this is good, and maybe nobody else will understand that. And that's okay. It's a confidence as well when you have that authority to feel okay, no matter what other people think.
Absolutely. And you shared a reel just pretty recently that I watched where you were kind of teaching about this. And I love how you stated it. I just remember the beginning specifically. Like if you have a teacher or a life coach or a healer or a leader in your life that wants you to rely on them for
all answers. Yeah. Mhm. Well, it's funny. You say that so nicely, like, oh, a teaching moment. I'm like, I was like coming in hot. I was like, enough, no more people. I see this too often. Yes, that if you have anybody that is someone in your life that is making you dependent on them, and they claim to be a healer, they claim to be a coach, they claim to be a mentor, a teacher of any kind, any of those people that are in your life and they have somewhat a level of authority, I would think, you're giving that to them because you're listening to them. But if everything that they're teaching you creates a dependence on them, instead of guiding you to your own inner authority and to listen to your own truth and your own voice and what is, spirit is telling you, then that's not a teacher. It's just not. Sorry. I'm sorry to burst anybody's bubble, but it's somebody that is leading you towards them instead of towards union with God. And that's where all answers should stem from. So that's where you will discern truth. You don't need somebody else to do it for you. And that's what I think, that's what becoming godlike is. Like, God makes his own decisions and she makes her own decisions. And they don't necessarily, they are creators. And I think they want us to be like them. The same way I want my children to learn to make their own wise choices and find their own answers and listen to their own guidance and listen to spirit, listen to their intuition. I think God wants that from us too. They want us to be able to be like them. They don't want us to constantly be dependent, I don't think.
Mic drop.
I was going to say, yeah.
Mic drop, that's right.
She's dropping the mic. I'm like, wait. As you were explaining that, I wanted to ask, how do you think Jesus embodied that style of leadership? Because one could argue like, well, Jesus wants us to have a dependent relationship on him. So, yeah.
How does that go? Wow, that's a good question. Well, I talked about boundaries, and I do think that Jesus had really good boundaries. You could just say, get thee hence, Satan. We know that he was like, and that doesn't play well with me. Actually, we're not going to go there. He did have good boundaries. And I think part of that is essential when you're gaining self-authority, right? You have to have some good boundaries to know like who you're going to listen to and who you're not, and when you're going to take someone else's advice or you're going to go inward. Yeah, interesting question. So I do think it's interesting when we think of the scripture, it says, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't memorize them perfectly, but Jesus says, no man cometh to the Father but by me. So yes, he is a path, but I think what he was really doing was showing us how, than just showing us what. So instead of, some people say like, Jesus wasn't necessarily an idol, but he was the ideal. Like, we can be like that. When I think of the story of Peter walking on the water, most people love the moment when Jesus grabs his hand and pulls him out of the water, which I do love as well. But what I found the most miraculous was that he walked on water. He walked on water, and he was not the Son of God. It was his faith. It was his power, his innate faith that he was able to do that. And he was following Jesus' example to say, I can be like you too. And Jesus said, like, you guys, you're going to go and do greater things than I. He was showing us a way to be like him, not necessarily saying you stay down here on this lower level and then, eventually I'll come and get you kind of a thing. He's saying, I want you to be like me. And you have capacity to do this. We have the capacity to heal. We know the Nephites, they even raised people from the dead. Many people did that. And so his power, I do think, extends because he was the creator of this world. He atoned for us. He gave us so many possibilities that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. But because he was that ideal, he also gave us that possible power to be like him and to walk on water or to move mountains, right? Any of those things that we might think, well, that's just kind of a fairy story. I think that's absolutely possible.
I love your answer. And I was thinking to add to that too, of that one, he spoke in parables often, and he did not explain them to everyone. It was like he was giving everybody like, here, practice this mental muscle of like discerning something, figuring something out, and even interpreting it in many different ways, maybe, there's not just one answer to what I'm trying to teach you. And those who are in tune and who are trying to become one with God will understand these things. And those who are not will stumble over them. And, and then I also think like he showed us priorities that like, when he healed people on the Sabbath, or when he, when his disciples ate on the Sabbath, or, whatever it was, seems like that was a big one where he liked to do things on the Sabbath, because then people are like, you're breaking the rules. And he's like, what is more important? Like, you don't even care that this person is healed because you're so worried about the law, and he showed an example of times when challenging that structure and authority was important to moving the work forward.
Yeah.
He's like, God doesn't live by these, like, all these little laws that you've created. God is sovereign, and their highest, that I feel, and what I've observed seems like their highest objective was healing, and
definitely
healing on all up, physically and emotionally and relationally. That, and then our covenants are all about relationship with God and with other people. And so I think, yes, Jesus wants us to follow him and lean on him, and that he's a path, like you said, but we have to use our brains to think about what that means.
Absolutely.
Really follow him.
I agree. Yeah. And like with the parables, everything's in layers, right? So it's those who have ears to hear, let them hear. If you have eyes to see, then see, right? And I do think you guys probably know that quote. Oh gosh, I don't know if I'll be able to quote it perfectly, but I think it was Elder Maxwell. I have it saved on my phone. And he said, like, God is handing out the secrets of the universe. If only you would not be so offended, you would like know them. You would be able to learn them, right? It's like they're there. They're all out there. But because of us, we are really the holdback, right? We're the ones that are saying, like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't think that's kosher. I don't know. But as soon as we are open to that, and this is something also that my friend Maria mentioned, she said, one of the greatest things that meditation and this practice given her has been to be able to open her mind. She's more open to things because now it's more experience, right? It's all experience based instead of just like, well, I have to just like memorize things. It's an experience so she knows what she feels is right. And I feel that way too. And as soon as like other things come up, like, well, what about Heavenly Mother? Well, then I can have an experience and I can feel what's right about that. Right. Like, and it's all in layers. Like, so if he taught parables and then we're like, wait, her name's Wisdom. And like, doesn't the Book of Mormon say, oh, be wise, what need I say more, or something like that? Like, okay, isn't that wisdom? Right? What else do we need? There's so many layers that we end up knowing just because we're willing to open our hearts and open our minds.
Beautiful. Kate, that was a great question. I love it. I've loved this whole discussion. It's been really insightful and fun to think about. And our last question for you is, how has Heavenly Mother changed you?
Oh, well, for me, it's been an interesting journey. When I look back at myself when I was a little girl, I rejected the color pink in every form. And I wore baseball caps, and growing up, I had this mentality that to have anybody think I was worth listening to or to have any good value, I had to be in somewhat of a masculine way. And so I did. It became like a little bit like I got to know all my facts, and I got to be a little harder, and I can't be sensitive, and I can't cry. And those things became like abhorrent to me, right? I would like literally try to numb myself so that I would be able to not cry. As I've gotten to know her better, and as I've had more experiences with her, and as she's come to me and talked to me, because I'm learning myself through her, I'm also learning to re-love those parts of me. So I'm able to experience my femininity in a way that's healing and beautiful, and I can appreciate. And as I see her everywhere, and her importance everywhere, and her symbolism everywhere, like we're in winter right now, and this year and last year, I was like, okay, this is the winter, and the winter months are the yin. It's like being underground. All the earth little seedlings are underground, and we're just being nurtured, or we're in the womb. And at this time, I'm just going to let myself be, which I have like kind of a bone to pick with the work schedules. I'm like, I definitely think they should change in the winter, because I think that's totally unnatural. That we all like work a 9 to 5, and we're out the door when it's dark and home when it's dark. Like, I think it's crazy, but giving myself permission to just take more time, to be more loving and kind to myself. Like I said, it's gotten me to know myself better, and I think in turn, that's exactly how I've gotten to know Heavenly Mother better, and to love her more, and to understand her more, and to let her be a mother to me, to let her hold me in space and say, I understand, and I'll guide you, I'll protect you. I had kind of a frustrating experience last month, and a friend of mine was doing some guided imagery with me, and she kind of showed up, and she was like, I got this. And it just melted everything away. It was like, okay, I don't have to worry anymore, because even if I don't know when this problem will be resolved, she's also my protector, right? Like, think of a mama bear. Mama bear is quite the protector, right? We think of men as protectors, and we both can be. I don't think we have to assign that just men are protectors, but she protects me. She guides me. When I had somebody very dear to me who was struggling with infertility and was wondering if her in vitro was going to take, I was praying and I was meditating. I did that same meditation, the mom meditation, and called to her and was like, I am worried. I am so worried for her, because she's tried for so long, and for, so much time, so much emotion, so much love and hurt and pain into this process. And she came and just wrapped her arms around me and said, I know, and I'm watching out for her. I'm there for her. I know exactly what's going on, and you don't have to worry. And that just release, that peace, it means the world to me. Being able to surrender more, that's changed me. Being able to trust more, that's changed me. Being able to have more faith. Honestly, I have never had this close of a relationship with my heavenly parents, either one of them, until I had started all of this practice and learned myself and learned them and forgiven myself and stopped shaming myself and just loving the way they do. That's really changed me the most.
Thank you so much. I love hearing your experience, and I love asking everyone that question and hearing unique responses every time, but just that safety that you feel with her. And Crystal, another thing that we didn't mention in the bio, Crystal has created women's circles. I feel like you are gonna, we're in Texas, far, far away, but
no, come to Utah.
You have seen online the account Sacred Daughters of Utah. Will you tell us a little bit about that, and
Sure.
Anything you want to share for Utah locals especially?
Absolutely. Thank you. I did not intend this to blow up the way it has. I didn't really have any intentions for this Instagram account that I just grabbed the handle of because I felt inspired to. And Heavenly Parents were like, you just need to go and grab that handle. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then a friend actually started sharing it. And Crystal Barnes has been on here before, I believe. And I thought, okay, I have to do something now. So I immediately had this vision come to me of, I want this to be, and I think it was partly my want and partly my parents' want, to be a safe place. It's non-denominational. It's a safe place for women to come monthly. We meet every third Saturday of the month in the evening, typically around 7, unless some things change. And we get together and people offer their gifts. And that can be education. We have done women's circles. We've done drum circles. And Jill, who's been on here before as well, Jill Freestone, she did one on talking on sacred rage. And then we had the most incredible drum circle. That was an absolutely life-changing experience, which happened on like a new moon and on the Chinese calendar New Year. It was like quite a mystical, amazing like alignment. And we've also done like jujitsu, because one of our gals, she does jujitsu, and she talked about the sacred feminine as a protector. And, we've had all these beautiful gatherings. We just had one, with, Terry Harmon. She wrote the book Words Instead of Wings, which is all words that are about the divine feminine. And she told us different ways that she's been able to like step into learning about the divine feminine. And so it's just a place where we come together as sacred daughters and sisters to learn from each other, to grow, to heal. And I also love it being a place where people can step up with the things that they know, because everybody knows something, right? Everybody learns and loves and has a passion about something that I don't know about. I love learning from each other. So we get that opportunity each month. Coming up, I think we're going to be having Charlene Joy, and she's going to talk about kind of like the seasons and springtime and what that means as the divine feminine cycles. And we're going to have Shakti dancing, and we're going to have songs and talking about like period cycles and what does that mean for women, and what does that mean intuitively or in a divine sense. So always something special every month. And if you have something you want to offer, please reach out to me through Sacred Daughters of Utah. Or if you want to come and you're in Utah County or near enough by that you want to, or just if you want to drive really far, you guys are welcome to come.
It's only quick 20.
Not that bad, right? It's like 20 hours.
Yeah.
It's definitely something special. So if you're around, follow the Instagram account. That's where I post any events coming up.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do and for all the work that you've put into becoming who you are. I know it's obviously you shared how much it's benefited you yourself, but it has helped change us getting to know you better here. And I know that our listeners will be really grateful too. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for this experience. You guys are doing amazing work, and it's a privilege to be here. I really, really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it. And if you haven't yet, please leave us a review. If you'd like to support the podcast monetarily, you can make a monthly donation at anchor.fm/inherimage. We hope you'll tune in next Sunday for another inspiring episode.